lie many stories. Now, before I go into detail, I mentioned the 5 tribes and I mentioned the 5 categories. Let me explain just a little bit of what they were. The records of citizens by blood. These were individuals that were interviewed and it was determined that they had a blood tie to others in the tribe. Now, does that mean that they didn't have a blood tie to others in other categories? It doesn't mean that at all, because in many cases they did. Individuals who were citizens and classified as freedmen. Many were descendants and were former African slaves, individuals who had been taken west on the migration and who were enslaved and lived within these nations, freed in 1866, and had lived continually as citizens of those tribes. Does that mean that they were not connected to people by blood? It doesn't mean that at all. In fact, many did have the blood of some of their enslavers, just as many people did in other parts of the Deep South. Many had the blood of their enslavers as well. But this was the classification that was given. And it's important to understand this, particularly because you want to find the particular records that have your family documented. Now, there are those who will particularly become annoyed when one is looking at the classifications. It's very important to stop. You must be objective when conducting the research. There is the political issue of what makes a person a freedman or on the blood roll, and understand that's a political issue. You as a researcher are objectively getting as much information as you can. You're going to find in some cases there are individuals on the blood rolls who have full siblings on a freedman roll, and vice versa. You're going to find individuals who are freedmen who had parents on the blood roll, and vice versa. So it's important to understand this happened. What is your task right now? Your task right now is to get the story and then analyze it and pass it on and share it. Now, looking at the classifications that I mentioned before, the record types, the enrollment cards, full of data, information when an individual came, either alone or with a spouse and with children, that individual provided information that was recorded on an enrollment card. Usually, not only is the name of the individual and the name of the spouse and children, but every person in the household who was being enrolled, the father of that person, of that enrollee, and the mother of that enrollee was there. In the case of freedmen, even more data. Most of the enrollment cards were one-sided. Freedmen cards are double-sided, particularly because not only is the information about the enrollee and about his or her parents, but additional information if the individual had been enslaved, who the last slave owner was. Now, many of you know, for African American research, this is very, very important. That's one of the critical stages of African American research. Your oral history, documenting your family to 1870 in the case of those from the States. And I say those from the States because Indian Territory was not a part of the United States at that time. And of course, if one had an ancestor who was enslaved, trying to identify the name of the last known slave owner. Well, on freedmen cards, the slave owner's name is there. And this certainly is incredible information and critical information, because don't forget, you want to get that information because that's going to help you to continue your research to go beyond that. Also keep in mind that there was no state of Oklahoma until 1907. So many of the things that you're going to be looking at are going to be critical pieces of data that are going to come off that enrollment card. Another record type is the application jacket. The application jacket is, I can't really describe it, is a folder full of information. There is an interview taken under oath, the testimony of the applicant, in some cases members of that person's family. There are, in some cases, precious documents, marriage certificates, birth affidavits, death affidavits. And this is particularly important because keep in mind, Oklahoma was not a state until 1907, and in many cases, you will not find birth, marriage, death records until 1910, 1912 on a regular basis. Here's some documents that predate statehood that are just so full of information for you. So again, the genealogical value cannot be underestimated. And then there are the final record type or the final rolls, which is a document. It was actually presented to the Senate as a Senate document, and there are about 694 pages that comprise the Dawes final rolls. In other words, these were individuals who, after the many months of going through those interviews and the commission weighing the case of each applicant or each family group that was applying, these were the individuals, literally thousands, who were finally admitted as citizens and eligible to receive and to claim their land allotment. Now, one other thing to remember: these applications, these enrollment cards, the final rolls, they're all available on microfilm, and you can access them also through a wonderful partnership with the National Archives and Footnote.com. You can also look at those applications, all of them, including another subcategory of files referred to as doubtful cards or doubtful files and rejected files as well. I cannot emphasize the value of these records. I'm going to put for you samples of these documents on the website and also on the African Native American website as well. In addition, I will be following up, looking more closely at the individual records to give you an idea of what the publication numbers are and how do you find them at the National Archives if you're going to one of the many facilities throughout the country. And it's something that particularly it's important because many times there are footnotes on those cards that will refer you to another person's file, and you'll find even more data on the family. Remember what your goal is: to tell your family story. And for those of you with ties to what is now Eastern Oklahoma, individuals who received land allotments and who lived there continually from the mid-19th century onward, you're in for a wonderful adventure in exploring your family history. I will cover more in the next video. Anyway, that's enough for today. It's a lot to digest. Talk to you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.